feeling I get when I'm flying is like freedom, really, kind of complete freedom. I feel like the kite is part of me, almost like the lines are extensions of my arms and my hands are kind of actually the kite almost. I kind of think it around the sky. And time stands still as well. I get lose kind of track of time and consciousness of time. It feels very much like a third place. So there's just me and the kite. The flying I do is always a performance because it tends to be in front of the public and crowds. It's nearly always to music. So it's a ballet routine which is tightly choreographed, sometimes scripted and very pre-planned, but other times very loose and very of the moment. The world record I hold is for flying a 4-line kite indoors with no wind for 4 hours, 44 minutes and 44 seconds without touching the ground.
I guess when we get there, I'm just going to have to find out which meeting room we're going to.
My full-time job involves being a PA to Rory Heap, who's a blind consultant.
God, bloody crowds.
So James and I have been working together for about 2 years now, and during that time we've really built on our own experience to make sure that when he's guiding me, for example, we move as seamlessly as possible. He guides me really simply by very, very subtle movements of his arm, either backwards and forwards or left to right.
We're linked in a way, like the front end of a truck to the rear end of a truck in some ways, so it's all one entity. So I steer and I anticipate what's coming next, which is quite a few kind of crowds of people at the moment. So I'm going to be probably filing Rory behind me in single file in a sec, which is this. So I just drop my elbow behind me and just keep an eye on what's going on.
I just very much trust James's direction and automatically follow what he does. So if he suddenly scratched his nose, I'd jump up in the air. And that's what tends to happen when people first work with me, is they make really exaggerated movements and I'm going all over the place, because I'm used to responding to James. Look for banqueting house.
When James is working with me, guiding me, it feels very comfortable and smooth. But actually it's very clear that it involves very high level skills. And the way that he's able to move me seamlessly through very difficult environments feels very much like being flown. I feel as though I'm being flown by a very skilled person, a very skilled pilot.
I used to fly in a team called Aircraft, and I now fly with my brother in a pair called Evolver. We're currently getting ready for the Bristol Kite Festival, which is a big international 2-day event with lots of different flyers from loads of different countries. And what we need to do is really fine-tune a couple of routines, spend a bit of time working on those before we go.
Break.
We put routines together by firstly choosing some music and agreeing on some music, which is quite a long process in itself. Then once we agree on that, down onto paper in a kind of notation form, then once that's done we might use our sticks, which is kind of a model kite, quite literally, and with those we get to work out what the wraps are, so where the lines wrap around each other and where and when, and then from there we go out on the field.
Now, break, 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 turn.
The pattern that we write and the manoeuvres that we write down is quite like a musical score, in that it's sections, almost like sort of bars, if you like.
Here we go. Break, 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 break. Big team diamonds. Ready? Turn.
And again. Brake, 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 brake. Now.
1, 2,
Brake,
3.
brake, brake.
Down. Down. Hold it for 3 seconds. And now. Okay. Thank you very much. Yeah. Bingo. Yeah.
I've always been interested in flying, things that fly. I mean, ever since I can remember, really. I know I became interested in aircraft and aircraft recognition when I was really, really young. I used to get childishly excited about when airplanes flew over. But I was always interested in which sorts of planes, and my dad would always say, that's a 4-engine bomber, or that's an airliner, and tell me about them.
Well, here we're between two flight paths. Heathrow's landing westerly today, so there are planes coming in from the northeast and from the southeast to join in one common approach path about 3 miles west of us at Clapham Common.
I find planes are quite a useful way of navigating. In fact, just the other day I was at a conference in Canary Wharf, which is a confusing place for anybody at the best of times. Nobody ever knows where they are, which side of the river they're on. And there was a discussion going on about whether we were on the north or the south side of the river. And I happened to notice an A320 Airbus flying left to right past us, and I worked out that it couldn't be going into City Airport because they don't, so it must be going into Heathrow. And was able simply to say, well, that's flying east-west, therefore we're on the north side of the river. It's as simple as that.
There'd be an initial height restriction of 2,500 due Manchester traffic. Do you wish to wait on the ground or get airborne?
I'm one of those nutty people who has an air traffic control band radio, and I like to know what's happening.
There's an airfield takeoff, no restriction on height, surface wind 270, 10 to 15.
Where's that plane? Where might that plane be going? What sort of aircraft is it?
Would you squawk 433 there?
It's almost voyeurism. It's almost like looking into somebody else's world that I know I'll never be able to accomplish. I'll never be a pilot.
Yeah, 630 miles an hour on that occasion.
I think I asked James one day whether he would be prepared to let me have a go on one of his kites, and I think I was quite sort of nervous about that. But he was actually very keen and said, yeah, it'd be really interesting to see whether we could get you to get enough feedback from the kite to be able to fly it, because it is a case of responding to what the kite's doing with the wind.
I get Rory to fly this kite, which is a North Shore Radical, which is a kite I used for most of my team flying, actually. And the reason we're using this is because the trailing edge, which is this bit, is kind of loose, so when the kite flies it vibrates, so you get a bit of noise, which is easier for Rory to track in the sky.
When I'm flying the kite, the feeling I get is one of a direct connection with something that's flying. It's very emotional for me. Just the idea that what I do affects something that is flying. And I kind of visualise it almost as like the perspex front of one of those bubble fronts on a helicopter or something like that. I see this area inside a perspex dome that the kite's going to be flying in, and that helps me to think about where I'm going to need to put the kite within that hemisphere.
I have control. It is really tricky. Right hand one, you have control.
I've been flying the kite with James 5 or 6 times now, and I suppose my ambition is to try and get to fly a repeated figure of 8, keeping the kite in the air for a decent length of time.
And together. Now together, and then right lots. Keep, yeah, a bit more right. And then together, hold it there, bit of left, and then together, and lots of right, loads and loads, then together, and lots of left. I have control. Cool.
sort of kind of regard aeroplanes as being the eighth wonder of the world. They shouldn't really work, but they do. When you think about the weight of them, the size of them, the power of them, they're just awesome. Even quiet little civilian aircraft like this, well, not quite so little, but they are quite amazing. But then when I think about flying the kite, it's like that's the nearest thing I can get to flying anything else. Being in that other space that we don't normally occupy, being in the air, moving in 3 dimensions, we don't do that. We're on the ground, we're stuck here. But people who fly things aren't, and that includes flying kites. If I'm able to fly the figure of 8 successfully, then hopefully it's going to open the door to me being able to fly the kite independently. I think it's quite likely that for a long while I'll have to fly with others' help, but ultimately I would love the idea that I could go somewhere, and even if it was just flying a figure of 8 for 10 minutes, I could just stand there and fly something. That would be a fantastic thing to be able to do.
When I'm flying a kite at night, I realise that my senses are kind of slightly reprioritised by the fact that there's no light or very little light input to what I'm doing. So in daylight, I'm relying on my eyes, or I think I am, and then in the dark I realise that I'm not solely relying on my eyes, I'm actually relying on the kind of sense of touch and physical relationship with the kite. And that in turn has led me to question whether it is actually your eyesight that drives what you do. Well, I don't think it actually is. I think what your eyesight does is merely confirm other senses.
I think when people watch kites being flown by whoever they're being flown by, but particularly by people who are good at it, then they think about the visuals, they think about the kite in the sky, the things it's doing, the way it's moving. But I think actually it's quite a physical experience, and certainly is for me, because I don't see all those visuals. And for me it's very much about the pull of the kite, the feedback I'm getting from the kite lines, what noises the kite's making, what movements I've got to make.
Come up and keep control.
We're looking forward to a fantastic day of kite flying. We've got some of the best kite flyers from around the world gathered here for you this weekend.
Today is the day we're going to try and do the figure of 8. Hopefully it's going to work today. I'm feeling pretty optimistic personally.
The radios are quite simple walkie-talkies really, but it's going to allow me, if we want to be at the kite end, so I can talk to Rory and give him instructions, but from way down the field. And it has an earpiece. The crowd behind us is quite impressive, so there's lots and lots of people here, which is really good to fly in front of. And we're about to start flying.
I always feel a bit nervous at these, I feel a bit nervous anyway because I enjoy it so much, and I'm always hoping that I'm not going to break the kite. Quite adrenalised, I guess.
Ladies and gentlemen, Carl and James Robertshaw.
Yep, I go for it, go in time. Right now, left a bit. And left more, and correct. And right. And right. Sorry, my fault. That's the old steering kind of conundrum again. On my part, not yours, I'd rather.
If at first you don't succeed,
Give it up for Carl and James Robertshaw. What a great performance, the brothers Evolver.
I think I do feel a little bit sad that the season's over because I really miss almost the way of life that it is, and it's quite exciting and it's quite intense in some ways, so when that goes away it's kind of an anti-climax, but it doesn't last too long. You know, it's never that long until it comes round again.
we're keeping the kite in the sky for a while anyway, but the wind is a bit lumpy, he said, making excuses. However, I'm going to have another go anyway and see where we can get to. Just wondering whether we shouldn't try a me launch, you control to set up the figure and then I go for it.
Yeah, sounds good. Alright, I'll come up that.
Yep. No, it's frustrating at the moment, can't keep it stable.
Take a few steps forward. Keep walking forward. Keep walking forward. Right, I'm going to do a couple of figure outs first. Get the pants off the pigeon. Ooh, now we have wind.
Yes, we do.
My God. Right, I still have control. This is the kind of amount of... keeping the figure out. Okay. That's only like that now. Then correct. And left. And correct. And right.
Silent kite.
Yeah. All of a sudden. Over to you. And left. Left more. That's it. Hold that. And then let me have control. Cool. Got away with it. You're a bit nuts, huh? I'm ever going in this? Yeah. Alright. You come out the middle, it's going to be really strong. Okay, over to you. That's it. spar that anyway. Oh, yeah, it's just spar that. Yeah, it's possibly getting a bit strong, I'm thinking. You know.
Right, one more.
Alright, I'll go and put the kite up.
Go up, you bastard. Take control.
Okay, I've got control.
Over to the wrong side of the window.
It's going to drift around a bit and then pick up. Oh, this is weird. Right, I'm going to set up in the usual way.
Yeah.
Over to you.
I think there is a relationship between me being blind and my love of flying, and particularly my love of flying kites.
The right-hand side is way too tight again.
Too tight?
Yeah.
I think everybody's fascinated in some way by flight. They either watch birds coming and going from their bird tables, or you know, they get excited when they go on holiday because they're going on a plane. I think it's an extension of that, but in order to achieve it, I have to actually do something in a different kind of a way.
That's much better.
Oh.
Control. That's right. Oh, I have control.
Whoa.
Stand back up again. Come around to set up again. I believe I have learnt more from Rory than he has from me in terms of the insight he's given me into his world, if you like. Specifically, kind of sensitivity to sound as opposed to relying on just vision. So I'm now able to concentrate on what I hear and use that as a sensory input and then confirm things with my eyes rather than just rely on my eyes. And I think that is something that I've had the privilege really to get access to, which is something that most people probably never will do.
It's one of those days flying a kite. You start off with an ambition and you nearly get there. You know, for me it's the flying the kite that's important. Having an ambition about what you do with it is kind of long-term and secondary, but I just really enjoyed flying the kite while we've been doing it.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's not about some kind of triumph to do something.
It's not about triumphing over adversity. It's about enjoying what you do and realising that you've still got stuff to do.
Yeah, absolutely. That was good though.
Yeah, it was.
Good hard
And
work.
to be honest, I'm quite glad it turned out like that.
Yeah, me too.
I still think
a bit more wind these days.
yeah, I still think I should be able to do it though.
I reckon so. I think it's always going to be wind dependent.
Well, we need a decent bloody constant 5 to 10. It is.